This is part 4 of our Heirs to Heresy campaign. And we kind of ended on a bit of a dramatic note in the last session. But before we resume, just a bit of bookkeeping. This is our 4th session. And so, as per the game, every 4 sessions, our Templar characters get to take a gift, a sort of like a special talent and powers that the characters get to accrue throughout the campaign. And I feel like it was especially earned after the harsh beating that our Templar characters received. So let's just go ahead and hear what each of the gifts you guys have taken. You've noted them down here in your special abilities. Jazzy, what is Elias now got in his repertoire?
Yeah, Elias has now added Bold Leader. As an action on my turn, I may grant an ally who can hear or see me an immediate action in place of my own. If I spend a faith point, I may do this to 2 allies instead of just one as a single action. This allows your group to take more actions than normally allowed this round.
Very good. Kevin, what about Esteval?
Estevao picked up opening volley. When combat begins, you may immediately make a single attack with a ranged weapon before initiative is determined.
Very useful. And Torben, what is it? What do you got there, Ben?
I chose Weapon Master, and I gain advantage on all attacks made with a single weapon and disadvantage on every other weapon, and I've chosen the Longsword.
Oh, very good. I think it's interesting, all 3 of your choices here, especially because they make sense in the context of what happened last time. Generally, we want to like fine tune how these gifts appear in the game world so that it fits the character. And I think all of these choices are very fitting. Elias with the Bold Leader, especially in the wake of that fight against that Teutonic Knight, the opening volley thing is very useful. And I'm so curious, what is Ben, your thoughts on Torben now favoring and putting more into the longsword? Because we saw him using the mace a lot last time.
And it didn't work out. So this is a reaction.
Oh, I like it. I mean, that knight that you were fighting did wield a longsword himself. So, I mean, kind of invoking a sense of challenge, perhaps. I like it. Very good. So, what happened last week was that our Templars had sought shelter at the fallen house of Elias's noble family, the Bowmans, which now lie empty and barred by order of the king. And while sheltering there overnight, they were on edge, trying to keep themselves on guard so nothing could attack them during the night or that no one would interrupt them. And despite this, they managed to get some rest. And there was some discussion held over the nature of the relic that was entrusted to them by the Grand Master Jacques de Molay, the humble clay cup, which Torben found to be quite unremarkable and ridiculous at the prospect of it being what Elias and Estevao earnestly believe it to be. And they intended to set out, but first wanted to finish looking around the place. Elias was looking for any possible maps to utilize in their travels, while Estevao was giving Monsieur Nivelle a tour of the place. And Torben was looking for drinks when in the cellar found a kind of like stone carving, like a niche, an alcove with writing he did not understand. And so seeking Estevao's expertise, translated the Latin, which translated to until Avalon. And the 2 of them were interrupted by the arrival of a knight whose white tabard was clad with a black cross on it, and a contingent of other soldiers had arrived, stumbling into the house and stumbling onto them by sheer accident. A brutal battle ensued where upstairs Elias cut through the French soldiers like tissue paper, soaking himself and his blade in blood, while Torben and Estevao were brought to the very edge of death's door by this brutal, unrelenting knight, a German knight. And Elias, upon joining the battle, managed to hold the line just long enough for his companions to get an upper hand, and a single shot from Estevao's crossbow took out the knight's eye and fled with that new grievous wound. And with Torben unconscious, Estevao barely saved from bleeding out, the three of you entered a secret tunnel that was revealed behind the alcove, shutting it behind you and plunging yourselves into darkness. We're not picking up there quite yet. Torben. Your senses around you become confused because you're not where you expect yourself to be. By all logic and reasoning, you should be on the floor of Elias's family's basement with a broken leg and many wounds, many bruises from your battle with this unrelenting knight. But instead, you're in a forest. It is dark, but not ominous. There's a peacefulness to this place, like walking through a familiar, safe woods, free of lurking beast. The sky overhead is filled with stars, and in the moon is bright and full, almost causing the land itself to glow with this ethereal, silvery, this light. And you're on a trail, not one of stone, but of dirt and fallen leaves. And ahead of you, the silvery light of the moon is even more pronounced, reflected. And you think you can hear a song on the wind. What do you do?
Just a small note first. It was his arm that got.
Oh, broken arm. My bad. Sorry. My bad. His arm. You broken arm. Thank you.
Is it? But his arm isn't hurting now.
There is a light soreness there, but it's distant. It's like the memory of pain versus the actual sensation of
it. Torben will stand up and look down at himself before moving toward the music.
As you descend down this forested trail, you emerge from the tree line into a wide open glade with a body of water that's not quite a lake, but larger than a pond. This silvery pool with its rock-laden edges beneath the starry sky reflects the moonlight and even the starlight above to enhance this sort of strange, otherworldly brightness to the environs. And the song is wordless. It is hummed. It is soft, but it carries as if it were loud. And it fills the space of this glade. And there is a shaft of moonlight that comes down most pronounced of all through the glade. And there is a figure draped up against the rocks at the water's edge who seems to be the source of it. Her skin is pale and unblemished, practically glowing like the moonlight that dapples it. She is nude with her back turned to you, her legs draped somewhat demurely across the rock, and her long hair is slightly damp. And you can see looks like she's going through the process of combing it, but is the source of the song. There is something disarming, not in a bad way necessarily, but it's that sense of like simple peace, like that this is not a place of troubles. This is a place of rest and contemplation.
I think Torben's going to look at her for a moment, maybe a moment longer than would be polite, before turning to the side and saying, "My lady, I do not mean to interrupt. I was hoping you could tell me where I am."
The humming comes to a stop, not suddenly. She lets the tune fall away rather gracefully, and as she turns, pulling the length of her long hair over one shoulder to hang down her back, she regards you, not entirely like modestly, but not sensually. There's a comfort here, and she looks to you and she gives you this small little smile, And she just, with one hand outstretched, gestures you to come closer. And you see that she then begins to stand, and you might for a moment want to avert your eyes, but very quickly you realize that this shaft of moonlight that was falling upon her, it suddenly becomes this silvery robe appearing out of thin air to hide her body beneath this like long silvery gown. And she stands at the water's edge, hands clasped in front of her, awaiting your approach.
His eyes will widen a bit at that, and I think there's a bit of excitement and also maybe just a hint of disappointment as he approaches.
The faint smile never leaves her face as you approach. And once you are within a few steps of her, she crosses the gap a bit more, taking a few steps forward. Her feet bare against the stone, but moving with like almost like a dancer's grace as she steps forward and raises one pale hand to touch the side of your face. The other hand, which was previously holding some sort of comb, though she has now set it down, goes to touch the spot of your arm that, as you recall, was broken. And her touch is warm and soothing, not quite healing, but even that distant echo of pain recedes a little bit. She looks you directly in the eyes, and her eyes are such a vibrant blue, like the depths of a cold lake. And ever smiling, she has to go onto her tippy toes to ascend forward, and with just the lightest amount of effort, of pressure, to bow your head forward as she's touching at the side. Do you allow her?
Yes.
She goes to place a kiss at the spot between your eyebrows, right there below your forehead, very soft and gentle. You can smell wafting off of her is an intoxicating scent, not of high ladies and perfume, but of this like intoxicating like nature, and this like coolness of a breeze that comes off of a lake. And after kissing your forehead, she just leans over your shoulder, and the only words you hear her speak, she whispers, her voice like bells, like the summer wind. She says, "Seek Avallonis." And you come to in darkness. And as your vision returns to you, you can look around and see that you are in like a dim, not quite a cavern, more like a dug out chamber that is faintly like lit with some torchlight that's been mounted to the nearby wall. Your arm hurts like a motherfucker, but not as bad as you remember. You can maybe poke with an inquisitory finger and find that the break is not as bad. Maybe it's still maybe a fracture, but it's you could have sworn that your break was much worse than that when you were struck before. But looking around, you can very quickly see your companions. Now, for Elias and Esteval, upon dragging Torben through the other side of the tunnel, you were able to move forward for quite a bit. Now, luckily, the alcove with which you entered this place through, the mechanism that opened it on the other side of it was much more simple. You could have dragged the alcove shut and quite literally had like a locking bar to seal it shut. You're not sure how long that would hold out in case other assailants come through, but given the fact that that knight escaped, you would better to assume that adversaries will be informed and this passage will be open eventually. But it was a short jaunt through the tunnel before this, like, and it's like an earthen tunnel, like really like dug out rough, not as like efficiently carved out of the earth like a mine shaft or something like well constructed. It truly was like hacked at, and it's more of like a slanted, like triangular shape to it. Occasionally there are supports in the earthen walls, but you found a small offshoot of the tunnel to pull Torben into. It is a little more than like the size of a root cellar, and the furniture in here is like dusty and completely bare, and there are like empty out like shelves and like niches of wood, like the kind you would expect there to be like books or like displays, things like to have like stored in here. There are a couple of barrels still around and they're completely empty, their lids like long popped off. This place has been stripped clean, and whatever its original purpose is goes now unknown. But this was as good a place as any to, especially for Esteval, who was still relatively quite wounded and hobbling around and dragging Torben, to rest for a moment. And Esteval and Elias, whatever tasks you're engaged in for this moment, you do hear Torben beginning to rouse.
Torben's going to sit up on the ground, looking confused for a moment before he just reaches up and just kind of touches his forehead and just absolutely blank-faced and silent.
I think Elia has just been praying, so you kind of wake up to probably a familiar sound of Elias praying for you and for you to wake up to the Lord and to keep you, like all of that. And now when he sees you wake, he like sort of stops mid-sentence and just looks at you like the relief is just like dripping off his face. Like he clearly like he would have realized that you weren't dying, but still there's like this oh thank God he woke up moment as he just looks at you.
Esteval limps over, leaning on the wall. Good. We all made it then.
And the knight?
Alive.
Pity.
Probably won't be bothering us for, well, hopefully the rest of the day. I think he has his own wounds to tend to.
And how are your wounds?
Something's not quite set right in my leg. Let's take a look at you.
He'll shrug out of his armor enough to expose his arm, and looking at it, it's bruised. It's definitely not in great shape, but it's not the shattered bone that you would think from the way it was crushed.
Monsieur Beaumont, bring that torch closer. I can't do God's work with blind eyes.
Of course. And he will immediately lean closer. And you can see that he's sort of like, you can feel that energy of someone who like kind of wants to hug you or do like something impulsive, but is also like very much like, no, that is not proper. I'm being a good boy and not doing it. But he's like sort of impatiently almost bringing that torch closer.
Do we have the fictional positioning here to do healing stuff?
I would agree. I think, I mean, like, especially because for an arm wound, like it's even with like basic shit, you could at least, wrap it. Like you have cloth on you. It's easy to make a basic enough sling. I think fictionally it makes sense to tend to the wound. And yeah, it is a pretty simple healing test. That's not the actual formal language for it. It is a trivial healing test, which means it is you need a 12 or higher. Which attribute are you going to stack this with?
I mean, intellect just feels...
Makes sense.
Yeah. I don't see a reason to argue for anything else, especially because my intellect's pretty good.
I would like to help, though.
Yeah, you have a +5 in
good healing.
Yeah, I think that how would Torben help Esteval?
I think just with words, he'll say, no, tighter, harder. You need to splint the bone, not just wrap a stick around me.
I love it.
Let me check because I think I can help too. Let me
You have a
check.
+2?
You have a +2. You can also help.
Yeah.
So Ben and Jazzy, if the both of you are helping, although I'll hear how Elias would help in a moment, you get to impose which one of the 3 benefits each. So Elias is helping how, in addition to Torben?
I think Elias, like for all his, we absolutely cannot damage these clothes that were given to us by God. Like as soon as Esteban is like, I'm gonna heal it, he's like ripping up part of his tunic and like bandages. And I think he's basically doing like assistant work. Like he's kind of prepping. He's like holding the torch, he's giving Esteban the bandages. And he knows that both of them are like better with their hands to do it, but he's like giving you everything that you need to do it.
I like it. So again, the 3 benefits that you're each able to choose, you can't double up on them, is either grant them advantage, allow them to add your skill to the total result, or grant them a reroll on their test, rerolling any number of dice. And as a reminder, if Esteval rolls a critical, all the aiding Templars also get a advancement point from that as well. So you might want to consider maximizing the potential for him to get a critical on such a trivial test. Ben, which benefit are you going to impose?
I'll go with advantage.
And Jazzy?
And I'll go with a reroll in case you can try to go
Cool.
for that critical.
Roll with advantage plus
Sure.
your healing intellect.
Ooh, okay, so 6, 3, and 9 are on the dice. I will re-roll. Well, let's see. So with 9 plus 2 is 11. So
Yeah, you can re-roll any
Yeah,
number of those
that's-
dice as you want. Yeah.
yeah, I'll re-roll the 2 lower ones
Okay.
and
See if you can get a
hope
critical.
for a Yahtzee here. Unfortunately, no.
you
It's
still do it.
9. Yeah, 9, 3, and 1. So it's succeeds at the test.
Yeah, it succeeds at the test. With a little bit of time and effort, Esteval, you can help get Torben's arm in a better position, maybe with a very light splint. We won't linger too much on the specific details, but that means, Torben, you can unmark the broken limb condition. Of course, Esteval, your leg is still giving you absolute hell.
Torben will happily try and return the favor.
I think so. I think if you're taking the time to do so, it makes sense. Of course, there is, who knows, I might get a little spicy with my pursuit points, and the more time you take here, maybe enemies are on the trail. Who knows? But regardless, I think it makes sense to do this now, considering Esteval's leg is probably giving him enough hell that wherever this tunnel eventually leads, it's unlikely he could make it without it being attended to. So same trivial difficulty at 12, and healing, which is yours, is a +5. What attribute are you wanting to throw onto this?
So the leg is a pretty thick bone. It's dense and holding it in place. I'd like to argue for might.
I was hoping you would, because like literally you're gonna set the bone, and this is about to fucking hurt. I love it. I'm all into that. I like to imagine then that the leg wound was just so bad. If you like, you can feel it under the flesh, that the bone is like partially like separated off, and it's a bad break. And the best way to fix this is to force it back into place. Do either, I mean, are we arguing for aiding as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, how do we argue that that you're helping Torben do this?
Esteval is gonna chant, do some Gregorian chants. He's a very lovely voice, and if this is D&D, it'd be bardic inspiration, but here it's just like it's almost to help himself from struggling and kicking.
It's
and
to calm
help,
yourself down. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I think for Elias, kind of the same, like again, offering, like he's probably preparing, like you said there was a shelf, so I'll just like basically rip off things that we can use as like I don't know what
splint.
the English word is. Yeah. Like a splint, and then the tunic. And I think I'll also kind of like sit almost with like my arm around Esteval, and it looks almost like a hug, but it's like very much like I will restrain you if you cannot calm yourself down.
I think Monsieur Novell just kind of meows concernedly as we begin this. All right, what benefits is Torben getting on the roll here?
I'll grant advantage.
Reroll.
Fuck yeah, advantage on your test.
That's a 2, 7, and 8. Um, it's a 12 that I'm aiming for.
Mhm.
I'll keep the 8 and reroll. That's the 8 and 2 sevens. So
That's a critical. So everyone gets an advancement point. And we haven't really had a critical outside of combat yet, which in it's you accomplish the task with a flourish. Maybe you finish faster, or I don't know. It's kind of open to a dialogue about how what the most efficiently here is. To me, the thing that makes the most sense is like it's fucking fast. Like this is a fast battle like fix. But if you have like a different idea for like how you do this with a flourish or with great skill, I'm open to it. But you can go ahead and just like narrate the healing as well.
we'll say it's fast. Torben's going to
All right.
kind of
So
take a look at the break, feel around, and say, "Oh, this won't hurt at all," and then just yank the sides of his legs to straighten it out, and it hurts a lot.
Is Torben a count to 3 go on 2 guy, or is he just I just go?
He's just go.
You have no real warning as to how as the bone with a decisively loud snap of forcing the bone back into place.
Yeah, Elia just feels like Esteban, like his grip just goes iron for yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely doing like sort of that sympathetic win, sort of like, ooh.
His voice gives away in the middle of a shit, like in the middle of an Agnes Day, just like
Wait, hold on. Feel free to shoot this out if you don't agree with it, Kevin. Does he like fucking like lightly blaspheme? Like he just he goes, Jesus Christ, like he just or does he is he just like a sound guy?
I think he gets significantly louder for the next like syllable of the song. If it happens to be a Deus, then
I think that's so funny. I'm into it. Yeah.
Just a good like Jesus Christe or something.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Got to get it out. And then yeah, you can unmark the box. So I think once a few more minutes have passed and the real edge of the pain begins to recede into more a tidal ebbing and flowing of an ache and the occasional spike of discomfort. Once the bone is back into place, a more proper splint is helped to be assembled around your leg, and now the three of you, after all this is done, find yourselves just kind of deliberating here in the underneath of wherever this tunnel goes. I kind of want to zoom out a little bit and like defer to you guys as players, whether or not if you guys have any scenes you wanted to undertake or any questions or anything about where you currently are, or if your intention is like, cool, now we're going to follow the tunnel and just get out of here and wherever that leads us. That's perfectly fine as well. I'm also interested just to hear, so I can begin to anticipate a little bit better, what your thinking is about what now. What is the group's plan? What do we think we should do next? It doesn't necessarily need to be an in-character discussion, but if you guys are interested in role playing it out, that's also fine. It's also totally fine to just do it as a out of character discussion.
Torben's going to be for getting away from here as fast as possible.
Getting out of Paris. In the more immediate, like I think following the tunnel to its terminus seems like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think they would build a tunnel for so long that we would give our pursuers time to really regroup if it leads to a dead end. But if it leads to an alternative exit, great, even better. But yeah, from there, getting out of France.
I have a question actually for Jazzy for Elias to consider, which is you had no idea this fucking existed beneath your house. What
Nope.
is Elias's thinking about it?
I think it's just sort of like disbelief, and it's almost like I think he's sort of telling himself like this was obviously like my family obviously didn't know about this because like that carving on the wall was like pagan shit and we don't fuck around with that. We're good Christians. So obviously this was just old, but there is like even I think even as he sort of says it to himself, he doesn't really believe it. So there is curiosity here and he wants to know what the hell is up with it, but I think if the others two are like, I don't care, let's just fucking go. There's like a sadness there where he's like, I really am gonna leave this house, but he will acquiesce. He won't fight that decision.
Yeah, maybe you can take one last look over your shoulder at the mystery of whatever this place was as the three of you have
Mhm.
gathered your belongings and descend down the tunnel. It's a fucking long tunnel. Like it winds and it goes for some surprising amount of distance that it's hard to keep track of it under the ground. Although another curious mystery of this place that it was is now I guess left unknown for the time being is that there are other like offshoots and small side chambers, much like the one you took a rest in to help set the legs and heal Torben's arm, that are have that in other maybe even branches off the tunnel that are entirely collapsed, like and like the just piled high with dirt and rubble. And I don't think it takes a scholar to understand that these are not collapses of a like like a wear and tear like nature. This is like
Mm.
you only get these types of collapse if something is intentionally collapsed, like if the supports are fucking destroyed. So that paints the question of what else was down here. But eventually, after a time, moving through the darkness with not but a torchlight to help guide your way, the passage comes to an end, a dead end. But thankfully, one that is very clearly a movable object of some type. It's not just a flush bare wall. There is a bit of give to it. You can feel the faintest draft coming through the seams of what really just kind of like looks to be like some kind of like large stony slab. You can't really tell what it is from this side, but if it's anything like the way you came in, it might be some sort of exterior hidden passage. So there's no mechanic on this side, no like visible like barring mechanism. Does Torben push it open, I assume?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, it's definitely not a mechanic. It's definitely not hinged on anything. So you kind of have to grunt, and maybe even your fellow Templars have to help shoulder the burden a bit more. But with some effort and grunting, your feet sliding out beneath you in the dirt tunnel a bit, there is a sliding as it's pushed just ajar enough to let in a wash of sudden extremely fresh and fragrant air. There is a like you get like the smell of like root vegetables and like meadow air that just comes over you. There's like a dryness here. As you begin to like push it further aside, you guys emerge into what looks like to be just some like random person's like root cellar, not a place that's beneath the house necessarily, like not like an actual underground cellar, but like an external like held underground place. There are like dried herbs and baskets of like vegetables are stacked up here, and what you've pushed aside is truly just like a big God, what is it? I'm trying to think of what the word for it is. I just suddenly blanked on it. It's basically just like this old like millstone that they're able to push off to the side, and it's like behind like just various disused and old bits of like farmer's gear.
Is this your family's too?
I don't know. We had other properties, but I didn't even know that tunnel existed.
Wonder if those collapsed tunnels, they might have led to other houses. There might have been a whole conspiracy going on just underneath the surface of France.
Well, if there was, I'm sure my family didn't know of it.
The
Why didn't they
tunnel,
escape?
the tunnel was connected to your family's house.
It is
I
an old house.
Yes, of course. They just decided to bar it up with a fancy display of of the Kingdom of Avalon for no particular reason. What a wonderful little mouse hole to hide with stories of King Arthur.
Well, you're very tired, so I know that you are not trying to imply that my family did indeed do any of the things that were leveled against them. Why don't you rest for a while and I'll see who this house belongs to.
Watch out for Germans.
See if we can find some food.
He says in a root cellar surrounded by vegetables.
I think Torben's already looking through what's there.
Just grab some tubers and just munch down on raw potato? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick break. So, Elias, you step out of the root cellar and ascend into the open air of the countryside. Though not terribly far removed from Paris, it can be seen in the distance. You are this is farmland. This is like hills and fields and cottages of people working the earth. And your best estimation is like a little bit northwest of the city, but like in actual farmland here. And as you come like emerging out, there is like a house nearby. You can see that this is like there's were windmills a thing in this time period? I forget when windmills were invented. By the way, I think there
I
is
think water, like waterside wells would
yeah,
be more of it,
I think it's like there's like a small like water mill nearby as like part of like a little creek that branches off from the Seine, and you can see like just like fields that are just like you know of autumn crop that are just out there, and there are people out in the fields of this house, or rather I should say near this house that you were approaching anyhow. There are a couple of like young children like just like running around the house, and a woman who sits out front and is like just tending to like various like it just has like this like big basket in front of her that she's doing something with. You know, you're kind of like viewing this from a distance. Let's talk about your appearance for a moment. You're still covered in blood. So
yeah, I mean, he didn't have time to take a bath.
And it's like afternoon. Like it's you know the sun is you know it's a hot day. And it was raining earlier this morning, so everything is like it's just like wet, but the rain seems to have stopped, though it still kind of has like this heat in the air. And as you come emerging, like I think the children are the first to notice, who like then like call out for their mom. And when the woman sees you, she basically goes pale and like yells for her husband. And they are very clearly frightened. I'm going to ask you to roll a D10, by the way.
D10. Sure. A 1.
All right, that is a pursuit point to the group. I think that the ruckus here, I'm going to leave it. There we go. It wouldn't change. I'm going to leave it open in the narrative whether or not the pursuit point increase is because of anyone here in particular, or if it's because the commotion here draws eyes from like other neighbors and workers. We're going to leave that open-ended. Regardless, though, after like a moment, a peasant like comes out from the house, dressed very much in like workman's clothes, like sleeves rolled up, very clearly one who's most accustomed to toiling under the sun. He like steps outside at the front of his house, and his wife and his 2 daughters are kind of like clustered behind him, and he's trying to be very very like was not quite brave, but like just very just like stoic. But there is like that one arm, the way his body language is there is a fear there, and he keeps like occasionally like whispering for his family to go back inside and stop. And I think as you're approaching, I think he would be the first one to call out. He just says, "We want no trouble here."
Well, good. Then we are on the same page for that. And I think like Elia is very much like aware of how he looks. He's like tried to like be as presentable as possible. And he has like sort of his hands like very like not like quite up, but like very much like not touching the sword, not touching anything, like very, very disarming. As he's just like, I seek no trouble, only some food and passage.
I think this farmer who is older, not quite. He's probably approaching the middle of his 40s. And he has like I think kind of like a thicker beard and a cap that he has like this receding like hairline, but yeah, like underneath like this kind of like simple like hat. You can tell that it's there. He opens his mouth to say something, but then kind of like squints for a moment, like it like really looks at you. And he's just kind of like so a little bit forward, much to the chagrin of his wife, who is like urging him, like, "What are you doing?" And he says, what is your name, stranger?"
I am Elia Beaumain.
And you actually see like his wife behind him go, "Belmont," and he like shushes her again. And there's like a terse whispering between the two of them. The daughter's just trying to get a little scared. One of them, the younger one, starts to cry a little bit, but he like sends them inside and actually finally gets them inside and he like closes the door. And he begins to like walk in front from the house and like very nonchalantly just like is going to like walk around the side of the house, but gives you like the simple gesture of like, "Okay, come on, follow me over here."
Yeah,
Walks,
and Elia absolutely will.
yeah, he walks to the side of the house where there's just like just like a wooden open basin full of like water. And he just begins like to splash it on his face, and then looks at you, and looks at your dress and looks at the water, and says, uh, I I can bring you a pail if you want.
Thank you. You are most kind.
He walks over to like this like just and comes back a moment later, just with a wooden bucket, and it just so you don't filthy the actual wash water,
Yeah.
gives you some separate ones, and and just like throws you a cloth as he stands there, and he's like, "Are you alone?"
There are two of my companions.
"Where did you come from?"
A tunnel. It was underneath the Beaumain house.
Yes, yes, it was. Mm.
You know of it.
uh yes, I do. um uh, you look like you look more like your father. I I've don't I've not I my name is Joy. I
You know my father.
knew before. Well,
Yes.
yes. He like really doesn't know how to say this. And he says, perhaps you and your companions can uh stay in the root cellar. He's like looking out over like the fields and like other people, and since you definitely drew some eyes, he just says, "I don't know if we should be talking out in the open. You are his son, though. You are the one who went to join the Knights Templar."
Yes, I am. And now I need to leave Paris.
He just like nods and is like really like thinking about this for a moment, and he says, "Yeah, come with me." He just begins to like walk back towards the root cellar, where Torben and Esteval, after a few minutes of Elias having disappeared, the door to the root cellar is jimmied back open, and he enters alongside this farmer. And the farmer looks at Torben, looks at Esteval, and is just like he's very clearly like a little intimidated by Torben most of all, and sees that all of you have been pretty worse for wear. But he says, "I am a friend of the Bowmans. My family was uh, farmers, lands. We were graced by the Bowmans various times. Um, it it is an arrangement that is not standing anymore. Um, the three of you cannot stay here long, but your companion here has told me your intentions to leave Paris. I have no horses. I cannot help you. But if at the very least, if you are, I owe it to Elias's father, nonetheless, to do what I can, even if it is not much. You just ask of me what you will, and I will do my best to guide you.
We will endeavor not to cause trouble for you.
He nods. There's like a kind of like a relief beneath him.
Some food would go graciously a long way. For the cat, of course.
Of course. There's not much that I can spare beyond what is needed, but I can provide you with enough to maybe help you for a bit of the road. You will need to there is down the road. There's plenty. I don't know what scruples you have, but you might be able to hunt as you get closer to the trees. But I might be able to help with a little bit, and I can put together what I can.
You'll also want to collapse this tunnel. They'll be coming behind us.
Yeah, at that, he kind of like, there's an expression that crosses his face, but it is largely superseded by the way that you ended the sentence. He goes, they? Who is they?
We're not quite certain yet. We just know they have a certain penchant for wanting to kill Templars. I'm assuming that the mere presence of a tunnel like this is going to give you an association with us. And I have a feeling these are the kinds of folks who are of the stab first, ask questions later variety. It'd be for your safety, unless, of course, you're using these tunnels for various other nefarious means, which, of course, I wouldn't ask or care to know more about. But I should just say that they are quite dangerous at this point in time.
I am the only former friend of the Beaumonts who has not collapsed the tunnel.
Perhaps it's time.
Perhaps I was told to when your family was taken, young lord. I did not heed because I was hoping that it would end up being of use to, again, maybe in case I did not want to bar the escape of anyone else who might wish to come through there. But here we are.
I think
You are the last
Oh, go ahead.
You are, as far as I know, the last Bowman who resided in Paris, so might as well if all the other tunnels are collapsed.
Yes. Yes, I suppose after today there will not be any point in it. And I think he's sort of been standing here with that conversation, like clearly very touched that this man, even though he didn't know about this, but that this man has like a connection to the Beaumans. And then especially when he said like, I didn't do it when everybody else did. And I think he will unclasp this like crucifix that he wears outside of his tunic. And it's like a beautiful, delicate, like it's actual gold. Like this is a really beautiful piece of jewelry. And I think as he takes it off, we see just like a very brief flashback of Justine, like his cousin, giving it to him as sort of like, I know you're going away and I know you're upset about it, so have this beautiful thing to remember us by. But he will like walk up to the man and put it like in his hand as he's sort of doing like that clasp. As he says, "Thank you for trusting in this family for as long as you did. I wish you and your family no harm. If this buys you the money that you need to leave, then leave."
Our place is in Paris, my lord. There is nothing about the city that will come from me or my family. We have been here for many years, and I intend to stay in this land for many more, to work the land that my father and his father dedicated much of their lives to seeing flourish, and come come what may. But I am nonetheless it brings me peace and joy to at the very least know that I could have provided some useful aid before the ties of old are finally worn down and released.
You are a brave man, and God
No.
will keep you.
No. I am not a brave man. I am merely an honest one, and one who respects the rights that have been the rights that have been done before by me and my own.
It is more than some.
Mm. He like turns his attention to Estevan and Torben and says, "I will advise that you all strip of your armor and weapons. You can leave them here in the root cellar, but it would not be wise to be seen with them if you are attempting to leave, unless you wish to stay in here all day until it gets dark. I don't have much in the way of. I have some additional of my clothes. I don't know if they will fit you, sir. You're looking at Torben. He says, but I can provide a little some food. You have to understand it is the winter is approaching. We do not have much to spare. The harvest has already happened, and now it is out of my hands. But I can guide you where I can.
If there's anything we can assist with while we're here, say the word.
I would certainly not disagree with the assistance in helping me remove the beams needed to make sure the tunnel collapses behind you. Why don't the two of you? He looks at Elias and Esteban. It's like you can disarm and strip. I will tell my Orion to provide you with some temporary clothes to wear and to present you with a modest meal. We have some simple oats that you could, if you are hungry now, we can feed you. Do not be offended if she seems ice cold. She is. She has always been a little on edge since the soldiers first came to ask about our affiliation with the Belmonts a few years back.
Let's see. I'm afraid I made quite the appearance. Do apologize to her for me.
You can rest assured that there will be no further issues with my family. Just let us make some headway on this. And yeah, so I mean, like, you guys can easily get some simple food just to fill your stomachs with something. It's basically just like gruel. And Torben, you can help Jory collapse the tunnel. By his understanding, there just like some strategic supports in the tunnel that was told to break, and that honestly he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand how the engineering or the physics of it works at all. But he's just like, he was told that if you knock down this and this, it will collapse within a certain amount of time, and the task is done. It's laborious, it's hard, and it's very sweaty, but it can be done within a couple hours. Let's zoom out, gang. Let's discuss about what's going to happen next, where the Templars are intending to go. And we know that your ultimate destination is to get to Lisbon somehow. Let's speculate, and maybe we'll zoom in to answer specific questions or see specific results. But I would like to know what we're thinking about going. Or if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them and whatever information they may provide. You are carrying a cup, and you need to get to Lisbon, and you're in the northern regions of France.
The most straightforward way would be by sea, but that's its own issues.
Mm-hmm.
We don't exactly have money to pay for passage on a
Exactly.
ship.
Yeah.
Overland, at least we can still like hunt and traverse and do all of these things. Uh, so I mean, I'm not
Good.
opposed. There is a chunk of southwest France that belongs to England. If we go down along that way, maybe we could split the difference a little bit. If we get money, we could sail out of a port down there.
Do we know how England feels about us?
Complicated. I'll get to that in a second. Just to answer the question about ship travel. It is entirely possible that you don't have to pay for ships if you are expected
To work on them?
to work on them. Exactly. If you had money, yeah, you
Yeah.
could certainly pay for passage, but like you would definitely need to like you might be able to get on for free if you were laborers with it. Regarding England, let me take a look at this for a moment because I have it here. Where did it go? Yeah, so England is still friendly to the Templars at this time, though there is a strain there given some connections to the church. I have this other note about England I'm trying to find. They are, yeah, England is a Catholic nation and generally friendly. The Templars do have a significant foothold there. And it's a complicated situation. Like their hand has not been forced yet by the church at this time, but it's a tenuous thing.
I have a bit of a like high level question, I guess. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but is us getting this thing to Lisbon where we end the campaign, or is it like phase one? Because if it's where we end, then I would like to do like more forest travel and like take our time with it. Because like as a player, just being on a boat kind of sounds like a set piece that we might exhaust pretty quickly. But if it's like we'll have plenty of time after that,
You
then
assume
I
I'm
don't
not gonna
mind.
like
Yeah.
shipwreck you or have something dramatic happen
I
to
mean,
waylay
obviously,
you.
but
No, but that's a really good question, Jazzy. Because it really depends on the campaign. Like the general intent of the campaign creation was like okay, what is the location we're trying to reach? Like what is the campaign destination? And it's implied in the book that reaching it is final, but that's not like a given. Like my current thoughts on it is the ideas I have for the story is reaching Lisbon is not the end of the campaign. It is certainly a major milestone, but that's also depends on like how things shake out and where the story goes. But I'm intending for it to take a little bit of time to get there, nonetheless. So don't anticipate it to be the absolute end all be all.
yeah.
It is significant. I wouldn't necessarily say if it's like phase one. I think phase one's getting the fuck out of Paris. Like I think we're at the phase one situation.
Yeah, I think Elia at least would still rather go over land just because we have more control there. Because if we are on a ship and people decide to sell us out, we can't go anywhere. Like we're on that ship. We can't run or do anything. We'll be trapped. And I think like Elia just doesn't like that scares him. Like he's not comfortable with that. Whereas if we are going through countries, it'll take longer, but we will have more opportunities to run or if someone sells us out at some point, escape maybe.
With all the stuff we've discussed, I think travel by ship makes a lot of sense, but I'm not opposed to overland.
And also, a thing to keep in mind with travel by sea is it does not necessarily mean you travel to your destination or even super close to it by sea. Like ship travel is not that lengthy. You might get a ship that takes you only as far as like southern France or like only as far as like the northern part of the Iberian Peninsula. Like or maybe there's a shipwreck or something. I don't know. So it's like it's a valid one, but I'm not gonna like necessarily I don't want
Sure.
either route to feel like it's the less interesting one. I want
Mm.
either route to be of like fun, and I will tailor them around them. And all it really affects is like distance and time.
And then I'm fine trying to find a harbor where we might find the ship. Sure.
Ben, any thoughts?
I think that might be the best bet. There's got to be a harbor that services Paris, so
There
not
is.
super far.
So I'll zoom out, and this is things that could be talked about with amongst yourselves as characters, or even things that you learn from speaking with Jory or his family. The major one of the major port cities, if you follow the Seine towards its terminus, is Royan, which is about if you were to follow like the major roads, would be about like a week on the road to reach Royan, where it is like a major port city, and where a lot of travel then would go from the Seine into the sea. And you could most likely find a ship there. It's also like, it's probably the major one, and you get to like Le Havre, which is right along the coast there. But I'm considering like Royan to be like the destination for it, in terms of sea travel. I think if I imagine a lot of this is happening like throughout like multiple conversations as like the day unfolds, like around the table. Jory, one thing he'll tell you, actually, I like pulled my notes here because I wrote this down, is so here's a fun little detail about Jory here and these tunnels. They're not quite smugglers. They were just simply a network for a shared interest. But he has heard that there is a smuggler and ne'er-do-well in Royan who could get you guys to Spain, probably. He's pretty difficult to locate, but Jory's heard that there is a contact who frequents a tavern in Royan called the Basilisk's Den, and could tell you how to contact said smuggler. Jory does not know the identity of the contact, so you'd have to ascertain who this person is once you are there. But this person Jory has heard of might be able to help you secure a boat, or at least get smuggled out of France by river, by the ocean.
I mean, sounds like some humble pie for Elia, and I absolutely love that. Like, my
Esteval
family
and,
didn't do anything. We just know some smugglers, just casually.
and Esteval getting back into the criminal scene again. Yeah, hell yeah. Let's
Exactly.
go. We ball.
I like it. Let's try to locate that contact.
Fuck yeah. So let's talk. I think now's a really great time to talk about how journey rules work. Because we're kind of zoomed out, and I think that's fine. So I'm just going to kind of like read in pieces from the book just for simplicity's sake, because this is kind of going to become a frequent use thing every so often. So travel across Europe. You are basically facing things like feeding yourself, avoiding getting lost, finding the best routes. And because you're fugitives, usually have to avoid main roads, and there are inherent risks of travel. And so we mark these journeys, we zoom out from them with a number of successful tests. Think of these tests as like stamina for the journey, a number of successes that must be accrued to be successful. Anything that when you travel along like main roads, those are travel tests. Journeys through the wilderness are explore tests, and there are some differences in how those work. And we treat, if it's like a particularly long journey, we break it up into smaller journeys for like different legs of the journey. So like it's one travel check to reach a friendly castle, another two to reach the port. It's two separate journeys, as I say mechanically, but they form this like larger, like cohesive journey. We want to subdivide these trips into like different interesting narrative chunks based on destination. And we're not trying to provide a simulated, accurate travel log of the 14th century Europe. And so, yeah, if you guys are traveling by main road, it's going to be about like a week to Royan. And that's a travel check. So we use the travel skill, and you can generally it's a travel plus intellect test, because at the start of the journey, the band makes a travel plus intellect test, and if they succeed, that means you guys have enough supplies for 1 week of travel, assuming you remain on major thoroughfares and known roads. You make that test every week for the upcoming journey. If you fail in a week, it means that you run out of food in a number of days, and you need to find some other solutions to delay your journey. If you're traveling off of the main roads, we roll the explore skill every morning and evening. You're traveling in unfamiliar territory or places that don't have like major roads or passages. We make a test, and there are like more like granular like things that happen because it's much more dangerous. So both have their pros and cons, because you can travel faster on main roads, but also you are fugitives and there might be perils there. And then you can travel more discreetly throughout the forest, but that also is there are dangers presented there. Like I said, I'm not doing an accurate travelogue of Europe. There aren't a ton of sizable forests on the road from Paris to Royan. There's a lot of farmland and hills, and the occasional copse of trees. And it's a pretty well-peopled region. So unless you're looking to go really out of your way, it would be probably travel. But I'm curious of people's thoughts about that. If you plan to travel by road, or if you're gonna like come up with, or if you do want to like break course to really like hike, like hoof it through the fucking hills. I'm curious to see what you guys are thinking.
That's probably a path that'll make it less likely we'll bump into anyone like German knights just out for a walk.
If we are shedding our Templar finery, then the main road from Paris to Royan seems like a good option.
He definitely
Also,
had
he definitely
had you shed it just for the sake of not being noticed in it throughout the day. You don't have to leave it at Jory's farm. You can take it, but yeah. Also, thing to consider though is your visibility on the roads.
And if Elia is absolutely going to insist that they can never be seen, that God can never see them outside of the Red Cross, then yeah, probably hoofing it long distance through the wilderness and staying off the main road would be the better idea. So it depends on how cooperative Elia is going to be.
Oh goodness, there is a question. In this case, this time, because last time Esteva was kind of like Torben was like, you have to do it, and Esteva was kind of just like, whatever, I need to react. Is this time Esteva also like actively trying to convince Elia to not wear this anymore?
No, I think Esteva would pose probably the same conundrum that Kevin, am producing, which is if we're going to go to the main roads, we'll get to Royan a lot faster, which means we could outpace our pursuers. But if we're going to do so, we should do so without broadcasting. Well, that's not a word, but
yeah,
without demonstrating to all of the world what we are. We should just be some humble travelers, not Templars. But if this is something that Elia is going to be a little more godly about, then we should take the scenic route. But again, mechanically, Kevin will also point out, the only one of us with any points in Explore is Estevao. And admittedly, we do have 2 people with travel, but it's a +1 and +2. So I think we are better served by the main roads.
Yeah,
I don't
and I
think
think
this is a very hunting group.
and for my travel, I didn't do it yet because I haven't gotten your okay, Alex, but I wanted to take one for my hunting and my travel and put it in religion because it doesn't really with the
Oh,
way
sure.
I've been playing Elia, it doesn't make sense to me that he has zero religion. Like that
I'm
makes
fine.
no sense to
Super
me.
fine with that.
Yeah. I
And
think
just
Elia will wear a cloak to hide a little bit, but he's not gonna like fully take it off. So if we're okay with taking main road at non-busy times, I think he'd do that. But like taking it off fully is gonna be a problem for him.
Gotcha. Now, and just to clarify, because I was parsing the rules for a second. So it's at the start of the journey, there's this travel plus intellect check to like see how much supplies you guys have. And then it is a number of travel skill checks that we can like argue like how they come up. It's and people can make them. And it's like there's a number of checks that I will assign. Like you need this many succeeds, successes, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, go ahead and move your points around. I'm fine with that. So it sounds
Yeah.
like scenic route. Is that what everyone's saying?
Main road is.
Oh, main
I
road,
think-
main
Main
road,
road,
main
yeah.
road.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. First of all, I'm going to need a volunteer then, just because it triggered very well with the conversation with Jory to do a travel plus intellect test to determine how much supplies you will have for this travel.
Sounds like that's going to be Esteval.
Yeah, he's our smarty pants.
Love it. Travel plus intellect, sir.
Sure. Dice aren't too friendly. That's 7 on the dice, plus 4 plus 1, 7 plus 5, 12.
Okay, 12. You know what's interesting is that it's this obviously it depends. It doesn't give like there's not like a static difficulty value because of Jory being an ally. I was gonna say it was trivial, so a 12 is a success. So that means you do have enough provisions for a week of travel, enough supplies, as long as you remain on major thoroughfares and the known roads, of which there is an abundance in this region of the country. And let's see, if you are traveling, it takes roughly like 3 to 6 days. I have to sign a number of checks this. I'm parsing the rules. I think the rules here need to be a little bit more clarified because I don't quite get what they're going for. But it says a number of successful tests. Got you. It's going to be, let's see, it says like for a medium journey of like 3 to 6 travel days is like 6 to 10 checks. I'm thinking of how to divide that. I'm referring to a quick map here. Honestly, I'm just going to keep it simple. It's like, I'm going to say that it's 3 checks to reach a village at the halfway point, and then another 3 checks past that to kind of reach a what's the word I'm looking for here? Reach Royan. I think that's what I'm going to go with. I might change my methodology with how I'm splitting this up later, but for now, I'm thinking that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to ask for another quick, like let's take just a quick 5, so I can just think on this a little bit more and parse the rules, and we will come back to resume the journey setup. Okay, we're back. We had to really talk about the rules a little bit more because we think we have a grasp on how the journey rules work, or at least on how we are going to interpret them. For now, we might revisit this later. Probably going to message this is the game's creator to explain it to us. But for now, what we're doing is I have broken up the journey into these like small little chunks. I'm going to go with a very basic, like it takes like 6 checks, and the system does not outline necessarily what a failed travel test looks like. It has great rules for a failed explorer test. You need 6 successes total to reach Royan. I've divided this up into other ones I'll outline here in a moment. The home rule we're going with right now is that a failed travel test does not immediately like impede progress, but it adds pursuit points because you're traveling by the main road. So therefore, like it's your fugitives, there's difficulties there. And you're currently at 4 pursuit points. So as a reminder, if you guys get 2 more pursuit points, that means it is equal to double, which means that there will be a dramatic confrontation as like the forces will reach you soon at a point of my choosing. So keep that in mind. The Templars are venturing overland across the French countryside to reach the port city of Royan, where they can maybe find someone who can smuggle them off the main out of the country and overseas to get to the Iberian Peninsula. That said, it's about like 6 to 7 days to reach Royan by foot, but by the main roads. And we made this travel check that you have enough supplies, thanks to the help of Jory, maybe some other smart provisioning by Esteval. And now here's how I'm going to break it up. The way I decided is I'm going to do 6 travel checks in total. It's going to be 1 to put the farmlands and plains of Paris in your rear view mirror, just kind of like to cross out of the area. Crossing the Seine will be another travel check, just at like at a point to kind of get across the checkpoint. 2 to reach a small town that you'll rest in along the way, like a village. And then another 3 checks after that to reach Royan. We're doing it streamlined, and occasionally we'll zoom in, especially for like downtime reasons. But that's the way I'm going to do it for now. Was there anything else we wanted to do regarding the farmer Jory, or anything at the point of where we start, or are we now jumping to the journey? All right, cool. So we're going to need one success on a travel test for traveling through the farmlands. And again, like this is the immediate environs of Paris. So you can imagine there are things like, there are still like French, soldiers and the king's men who are still like combing the countryside in search of escaping Templars. It is a travel test, but I'm open to an attribute. So who's got an idea for how you will approach this leg of the journey to overcome and make it out safely?
I mean, either quickness in travel or intellect in travel.
I like quickness in travel. I mean,
to keep
yeah, that's true.
Going even when we're tired.
I will say that, I mean, one of you gets to make the test, and then there might be aiding if necessary, if we think it fits. So it sounds like Esteval is had an idea for this with quickness in it too, and that would be a pretty decently high roll. None of you can aid each other with travel tests, unfortunately. So do we want to have Esteval do this first one? Okay, I'm fine with it. I like your argument for quickness in travel. It makes sense. Sure. You're trying to get the fuck away from Paris. So go ahead and roll quickness and travel. This will let me assign a difficulty to it to make sure that it is because this is another thing where I have to assign a difficulty to it. Because the journeys don't have a specific one, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna say that this requires effort, so it's a 15 to reach.
Okay. Ooh. 7 and 4 on the dice brings it to 11. Travel and intellect travel and quickness is 5, so that's 16.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay. That's 1 success. Fuck yeah. Next leg of the journey will be to cross the Seine. And it's still pretty like common in this area. So I'm going to say that this is a pretty trivial task. It's only a difficulty 12. There might be bridges or other ferries you can use to get across to continue traveling along the roads that are ideal to you. It's still a travel test, but who would like to take the approach to it this time? I will hear any argument for attribute. And you can kind of tell me how it comes into play, whether it's convincing someone to give you across or just huffing it through the shallows. I don't know.
So when you say it's a travel test, does that mean the skill that we use, no matter what, is going to be travel?
It's always going to be, the skill is always going to be travel no matter what, but you get to tell me what the attribute is based on like how you want to approach it.
I mean, I don't want to, keep still on the spotlight here, but when it comes to attributes, it's like we've got Esteval's got quickness and intellect, and those work for a lot of things. I feel like when it comes to this sort of dealio,
Esteval might just for the time being be the travel guy, which I'm fine with, as long as you can make an argue for either of them coming up. Like that's all I care about.
I think Ben had an argument earlier, so I don't know if you want to go with that. I don't remember what you said, but you said something.
Vitality for just stamina, but
vitality would absolutely help you in the case of like if you were to like cross like the river manually, right? Like you're just gonna like hoof it through the reeds or something. I would just need to hear from Esteval if you were the one gunning to make the roll here, how quickness or intellect would in any way help getting across the River Seine.
I mean, getting across the river, uh, intellect to find a crossing point would be a narrow enough crossing. If we, especially like if we have a map or had a map uh
I like
help us
all the
out.
arguments that have been brought up. So ultimately, I'll just leave it over to whichever regardless of numbers, whichever one you guys think is the most fun to do.
I
My
mean,
thinking is you have 2 in travel, right?
I have 1 in travel, as does Elia. Torben has
And
a 0 in
a
travel.
0. Okay, so nobody can help. Okay, never mind. Because I was gonna say if one of us can help, then that person shouldn't roll because they can help, but nobody can
Mhm.
help. So
So I mean, like from a pure mechanical standpoint, like as it's going to be hard to beat Esteval's like
mhm.
attribute anytime it's going to add a skill. I'm the only one with +4 in
Yeah.
attributes, and I have 2 of them. Um, but this is we could have some narrative fun with it. Although last time we tried doing that, we almost got killed. So I like I said, I don't want to hog the spotlight here.
That's fine with me. Go ahead.
If it's
It's your time to shine.
Yeah.
Cool. So do we want to go with the intellect and yeah,
Just for river crossings, yeah, makes sense. I like
yeah,
going by
okay.
travel. You can yeah, go ahead and go.
Sure. Intellect and
It's only a
travel
12.
+5. Crit, dual 9s.
That's an advancement point for Esteval. You can have up to a
Awesome.
maximum of 4 per session, so you're damn nice. You can gain up to 4 per session. You're not capped out at like a total
Yeah.
of 4 points. Fuck yeah. I think I want to say that like I want to insert 2 downtime periods into this travel, and I think the idea of is like once you guys have gotten out of the farmlands and across the river and are kind of just more in like these open hills and plains for a time, is a great place where you can like hunker down to like maybe like camp out and just and have a moment. I don't necessarily, it doesn't matter to me if it's like the first night alone, although narratively it would maybe be the most interesting one if it's the first night on the journey. But either way, let's go ahead and just trigger one of those now just to see what the fuck happens. Because there are 2 types of downtime, right? There's wilderness and civilization. Wilderness is anytime you guys stop for the night, or just a time period where you're the only humans resting within 3 or so hours of where you are, and that makes sense. I mean, there's like you're past the farmlands, you're just kind of like in this open, like occasional like countryside cottages and pretty sparse along the travel roads. I would need to roll a d6 to determine how safe the location is to see if you can even take downtime actions, because there's always a risk that the foes pursuing you will close in. Roll a d6. That is a 6. This is a safe location, which means you can undertake downtime actions. You can take 1 downtime action each night, and there are 5 of these. You can conceal your trail to lower the pursuit points. You can pray to recover a faith point. You can recover more health just automatically. There's no check involved that you just roll and you recover health. If you had damaged gear, you could repair it. None of you do, I think. Or you can train to grant yourself advantage on 1 test the following day, or in this case, just the following time period of until the next journey thing.
And we each get to choose one, or
you each get to choose 1. I can screenshot this too if that helps.
Was there not an option to pray? I can't
There is
open the document.
Okay. There's an option to pray. It's a test, and then if you're successful, you get a faith point back, as long as you're not at your maximum.
I am not.
And therefore, you could pray. Does Elias want to pray?
I mean, I'm only at 5 stamina, so I should probably do that, but I don't wanna.
Okay, so you want your faith points, not your health. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's gonna be this is a faith plus religion test that requires effort, so 15 or higher to succeed.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
We'll
Let's
get the
do
we'll get
that.
like we're gonna get like the mechanics and roles out of the way, but then we can like do the fiction.
Do okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna just get the bookkeeping out of the way first.
Ooh, that's a double nine crit for me as well.
You get an advance. You pray real good, Elias.
Oh yeah, yeah, he does.
And I'll let you decide how that manifests during the scene as well, during our campside role play. But
Roll
what
fail.
about Torben and Esteval? What are you two going to be doing?
I think I will train, but the way I'd like to interpret this is uh, studying the maps,
Makes sense.
going for
Get advantage on
advantage
the next
on
travel. Yeah, makes sense. What about Torben?
I will try to conceal trail. It's not my best. I'm not well
Yeah,
suited, but
that's explore plus intellect, and it is difficulty of 15. If you succeed, though, I lower the pursuit points. So, but the good news is if you fail, they don't go up. It just yeah.
That's a 7 and 9, so 16 plus 1, 17.
Fuck yes. Okay, I will lower the pursuit points. Good job. Think about that for a moment, and let's set the scene. You guys have officially fled Paris and are now wandering through the French countryside. You have a destination in mind. You have obviously Lisbon as your ultimate goal, as decreed to you by Desmalais. Now you're trying to make it to the port city of Royen, and you have hiked a fair amount of distance and left the countryside behind on the main roads and have luckily thus far been unharried. But you find yourselves having a quiet evening camping out here under the stars. And this is probably the safest point you've had, like in this entire since waking up on the morning of Friday the 13th. I don't have much to say about this scene personally, so I invite you all to set the scene however you wish and role play it out to your until we feel like the scene has reached a contentful conclusion. Why don't we start from the point actually of Elias praying? I feel like that's a good entry point into the scene because we have Torben doing something and we have Esther out studying. So it feels like to me Elias is like the focal point to open the scene with.
Sure. Yeah, I think we sort of probably see us, like a small campfire. There's some food that we like. We had all of that, right? And I think sort of leaning by this campfire, Elia will start to take off his armor and the cloth, and he like folds it really neatly so that the cross is like sort of visible in front of him. Like he doesn't sit on it, but it's sort of like there for him to like see. And I think I imagine there's like, like some, um, actually let me real quick check our safety tools.
Always a thing I love to hear
Okay.
before narration happens from Jazzy.
We're good. We're good. I imagine that I think we've, like gotten ourselves firewood and all of that, but he has gotten like one particular like thick branch and he kind of strips to like shirtless scene essentially. And he will start to pray. And as he is praying, he will take this branch and like start whipping on his shoulders. And I took for his look that he has four significant scars. And some of these we sort of see the camera like stretch around. We see that like all across his shoulders and sort of that like diagonal. There are already like deep grooves of scars, almost like angel wings or like where wings would like rip out if you had them. And he just like starts like whipping himself. There's that sound of like very like every time he does it, there's like the wind kind of gets like it's not the pain that Estevao had when he was chanting, but it is like very much like the air is just like physically beaten out of my lungs for a second. But he keeps like doing this and praying, going through it. And like we hear just, it almost becomes like this rhythmic sound of wood on flesh, his voice like just ever so slightly withering when he does this, but he keeps praying as the flames just like dance shadows on his face, and we see that he's like, starting to sweat from the pain, but he doesn't let up until he feels that he is once again like properly connected and redeemed himself to the Lord for these sins, for fleeing the order, for everything that has happened, for what he's done to those French soldiers, to the safety of his friends. And he's just like praying and beating himself as he does. Until we probably see like not he's like not trying to maim himself, but we see like some flecks of blood and the bruises starting to form. And I think both of you are kind of almost familiar with this, like he's done this before.
I think Torben has probably been just trying to do that very cartoonish. If he sees anyone, it's, oh, they went that way, and pointing in a different direction, just trying to sow a bit of confusion if anything does come up of people looking for them. And if he sees Elias doing this, I think he'd probably try and deter him. This isn't like when we had the temple to rest up in and be safe to take these kind of measures. We're on the road. How would Elias feel about that?
Ooh, yeah, I love that. I think like Elias sort of, first of all, he kind of looks up like, excuse me, I'm praying here. Like, like he just spoke too loudly in the library. The kind of like mom-like offense of like, what are you doing? But he will sort of listen and slow down. And he lays down that stick that's like red with blood. But then I will not slow us down.
Not on purpose. But if you can't carry your pack because you've whipped yourself too hard, you will slow us down.
That is the point, Torben. That I will carry that pack no matter how much it hurts.
And have we not suffered enough, Elias?
Not in the ways that the Lord demands it.
If this was all the Lord's plan, then it is exactly in the ways he has demanded it.
You know what I mean. It is only through suffering the way that Jesus suffered, if we suffer as his passion, then we may be close to him.
We can be close to him in Lisbon.
I cannot wait that long. Do you think me so weak?
Weak? No. Never weak.
Then what?
Foolish. Proud. Stubborn. Irritating. Not weak.
Well, I'd say put the mirror down.
It's hard when I'm so very pretty.
You would know, I suppose.
Just be mindful. We have a long journey, and we needn't suffer more than is strictly necessary.
There's, I think, a silence as he goes to pick that stick back up again and doesn't. And he just says quietly, and you can hear like the shame in his voice when he says, I killed all of them, Torben. They were people, just soldiers doing their job, and the wrath in my heart, I cannot carry it with me to Lisbon, and I know of no other way to get rid of it.
Consider that they died for the cause they believed in. They knew the risk, they took it, and they died well.
By my hand, slaughtered like dogs.
Yes. And if their cause was true, then they shall be rewarded in heaven. As will you. You did what you had to.
No, I did what I wanted to. I wanted them to suffer. I wanted them to be hurt the way I was hurt.
And if you hadn't, we would be dead. And that stupid cup would be lost.
Not a
You
stupid
did your
cup.
duty. You did God's will. Be proud.
You think that truly?
I do.
That what I did there was God's will?
If all of this is a test, then you were tested and you succeeded.
Very well. You two are a man of God. So I must accept that I do not know all. And my friends may yet see more than I do.
Did you strike your head, Elia? Are you well? Was that... No, it cannot be. Esteval, he was humble.
All right. And I think he like playfully like throws the stick at you.
Oh,
Food's
You did
done,
well.
by the way. It's not tasty, but it'll let us do God's work a little longer.
Monsieur Novell is just perched up on a stump, having looked at the two of them this whole time, and just glances over at Esteval and just goes, "Wow."
Yes, I agree.
You're spared from the pot for another few days, Cat. Torben's gonna go eat.
Fuck yeah. I love it. I think it's a great scene. Was there more we wanted to contribute to that scene, or are we happy with that? I love it. Great. Next, on the journey lengths, I'm going to need 2 successful checks to reach a village kind of around the halfway point to Royan, a stop for you guys to actually kick up your feet, possibly just that there is, it is a point of interest. So I'll need 2 travel tests. It can either both be from Esteval, or we can have someone else throw something into the pot if we cannot find an explanation for intellect or quickness.
How bad do we want to make things difficult?
Yeah, right.
I have advantage on one of them. I'd
You
like
do.
it to be the more difficult one, whichever. Unless they're the same, then it, you know.
I think I'm gonna say that this one. Honestly, I think just because we're on main thoroughfares, this is pretty trivial. Like I mean, crossing is not like a huge walking across open territory. It's not like it's that difficult. So only a 12 on either of these.
Then I mean, I'll take the first one. Just get it out of the way.
Fucking out of the way. Yeah, we're
at
doing
least,
quickness or intellect.
Like quickness again just makes it's the easiest one. We're trying to evade our pursuers.
Oh yeah, you're just moving like expeditiously. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, cool. So with advantage,
I like that idea. I mean, I think that fits really well with what you were saying with you were studying maps. So you're just kind of like you were focusing on like, you know, you put the mental work into like the best routes, and now you're moving down them with speed.
yeah.
I love that.
With advantage, 16 plus 5 is
Yep,
21.
all fucking good there. And then we need another one, and I would prefer to see one from someone who isn't Esteval, just because I want to. I know the skill numbers are one thing, but I want to see if anyone has like a non quickness related one for another approach to this, and I'm open to discussion. Torben like vitality.
Yeah. Valid.
Mhm.
Might if I just carry everyone on my shoulders.
If you do have to carry Elias's back. No, he would literally die before he lets you do that.
Although I do like the idea though, of might for the sake of like helping lessen people's burdens by carrying more weight himself to like make sure that the not as strong people move a bit more efficiently. That's I could see that as like as a might thing. But
Surprised Elia is not just saying like let Jesus take the wheel and roll with faith.
I absolutely want to, but Ben has been trying like 4 times to throw some rolls.
Okay, let's let Torben
we're gonna let Torben do it. We're gonna let Torben do it this time.
But Torben that's absolutely gonna be what I'm gonna say. That was absolutely my plan.
Torben gets to do his big of strongman routine.
And Elia will absolutely let Jesus take the wheel.
That's a 16 plus 3, 19.
Oh, splendid. Yeah, we're good. We are good. Covered the distance pretty well. I will tell you now that this town, this village, I should say, that you're going to reach, is dangerous. It's dangerous because it's very unfriendly to Catholics and Templars alike. By default, you guys are increasing your pursuit point count by 1, and you can't take downtime actions while resting out in the town. But no one is closing in. It's just that you're in a place that is hostile to your cause. And I would like to actually kind of hear from the group is like, how do you experience that, and how do you know that while you're in this town that it is not a place that has any love for Catholics or Templars? Whether or not you're clearly a Catholic or a Templar is of no concern immediately. I'm just curious for you to paint the scene a bit.
So because we are branded as heretics, we would most likely be burned because historically they wouldn't want people to take like relics. They wouldn't want to take body parts. So I don't think that we see like, people hanging or anything, but I think we see like these they have taken like Templar uniforms, like the white with the red cross, and they are like burning them on the street. Like in this very like gleeful way where they're like making a show out of it.
As we pass through town, one of the first things we see is the remains of a Catholic church. It's been burned down and brought to the ground a long time ago, like not just recently, but it definitely sets the tone.
I was also going to figure like some kind of church or holy place that we recognize but has also been ruined enough. So instead I will say that there is an effigy of an ass with a cross, like and just for some additional blasphemy, the cross is probably like hanging upside down or something, but like a stick or twig effigy of a donkey.
I love it. Yeah, obviously, since this place is dangerous, your stay in the town is one that keeps you a bit on guard to ensure that you're not attacked by any of these hostile locals. And we'll move on from this location. We need 3 more checks to actually safely reach Royan. So I'm going to demand one from each of you. Yeah, I'm going to say I'm going to make each of you do one this time around. If you think you can have a good argument for it, if not, that's
okay. I actually have a good one for this one particular because they are so hostile for us. I would actually argue courage. Just basically like composing ourselves and being courageous enough to just keep moving and like not, either try to help or stop something, but just be like, we need to focus. We need to be, because courage is like, it's being brave, but it's also like mental onslaught, if I understand
I'm into it. I think
correctly. So yeah.
I think under that circumstance, I'm going to put you at this is going to require effort. So it'll be a 15.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's a snake eyes.
Cool.
It's a crit. That doesn't work because it doesn't succeed.
Yep. I'm going to increase those. I'm going to increase your pursuit points on that one. I'm trying to think in the narrative a little bit. I'm open to your ideas about like the way honestly, I just think that I think Elias is such a noteworthy person, right? And so it's like even if you're moving with like headstrong, even if you're not drawing attention to yourself otherwise, there's just like something about like being a recognizable, not quite recognizable, but being like a pretty boy on the road. You know what I mean? Like there's something to it
Yeah.
that's like.
Also, he does like have a cloak, but he still has the Knight Templar. So it might not be like people are like fully like, I see you wearing the
Sure.
thing, but maybe like some glimpses that people are like, is
But I
that?
think I think it's even as just to say that it's like you may have seen like or even heard about like the night before all staying at like a you know in town there's like about like a nearby contingent of French soldiers like the next town over, and it makes you go like, ooh, you know, gotta go.
Mhm.
Okay, that's a failed check.
Go for it. Go, Torben.
I'll make my might or vitality. It's the same for me either way.
Well,
So
it'll depend on the fiction around it because I'm here. I know it's the same number, but if it's might, it's strength, and if it's vitality, it's sturdiness. So, what are we thinking? Whether it's your resilience to the elements or your actual physical strength that
maybe
you're approaching
because
this.
we're just getting out of town of this unfriendly area that's not too far in rear view. Um, we're gonna power through longer than we normally would. We'll skip breaks, just keep walking. So I will go for vitality.
Okay, do it.
8 and 7 plus 3 is 18.
Okay, you're good. You're clear. Splendid. That's one success. Need two more.
And then
And of course, this is over the course of like probably like 3 or 4 this is over 3 or 4 days that this stuff is happening.
so have we gone through another Sunday then?
It was going to take a total of like 6 or 7 days to get there, and you guys left on a Saturday. Or no, I guess you guys left on Sunday because you guys may have stayed with the family. So we'll be at another Sunday by the end of this journey.
Got it.
Oh, no, yeah.
Understood. All right. So yeah, I think again, quickness and travel. We're again just trying to keep up the pace.
Makes sense.
No. 6 and 7 makes 13 plus 5 is 18.
All right, we're good. We need one more. If we get a failure, and if you want to double up on the same thing again, I'm fine with that. Just because you have one. If you get another failure, you guys have 6 pursuit points, and I will definitely make use of that.
Do we?
Yeah.
Do we want to?
Do you want to let Elias? Yeah. Jesus,
let's do it. Let's
on,
do it. What's the worst
how,
that can happen?
How do you leverage Jesus's aid?
I want to hear this.
Effort? I want to hear this. Justify it for me.
Justify it for you.
Yeah.
Well, the Lord works in mysterious ways and does not justify himself to the likes of you.
Okay.
No. That if somebody finds this recording, I'm gonna get killed in my house.
I'm gonna send this. I'm gonna send this to Alan Barr and be like, so explain to us what we're doing. I'm gonna send this. I'm gonna send it to the Pope.
Okay.
Inquisition still a thing. Let's send it after Jazzy.
For real though. Faith deals also with willpower.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Now I can't take it seriously anymore.
Faith in your quest, absolutely. No, it's a good idea.
Exactly.
Like, having the surety,
yeah, and I think it's sort of, because it's the last leg, it's like very much like we just have to push through. We just have to, like, it's gonna be better there. We have this quest that we need to fulfill. Like it's like the last bit is the hardest. So we're like physically exhausted, but mentally we're just like, come on, last push. We can do this.
I'll offer. We haven't talked about adverse weather, but at some point, autumn rains in chainmail probably sucks. And so, like, if Elias just starts doing the Templar Gregorian chanting in the rain, just like
Absolutely.
keeping spirits up, I could see that'd be my argument for faith.
I like
I'll
it.
take it.
I like
I'll
it.
take it.
I'll allow it, and I want to see the roll happen.
I'm
You know
so
what? I think
scared.
I'm going to say that this is trivial. I think this is 12.
Okay.
I know. I honestly think that just having like it's not the biggest of obstacles to overcome.
All right.
I'm
Well,
so
that
putting things in
is
trouble.
a 10 and a 4 plus 4. So 18.
Okay, we do it. Good job.
See? The
Have faith
Lord
in the
will keep
Lord.
you.
The Lord preserves and the Lord approves. Incredible. But we are at a pretty tenuous 5 pursuit points. But and we'll talk more about this next time for the just for the sake of it, but just to close us out. You spent the better part of a week now, 6 days traveling through French countryside and working together with Royen in your far horizon, closing in on an escape from those who pursue you at the various points along this way. I mean, it's been clear that forces of King Philip are certainly spreading out throughout the countryside, and you know very little of what's going on with those German knights that almost bested you beneath Beaumont's house. But you just need to get on the water, and maybe you can get out of there, and you will arrive at Royan, the bustling port town, to ask around and find the tavern known as the Basilisk's Den to suss out a smuggler or other contact for the smuggler. But upon arrival in Royan, Esteval, what code or symbology is present in Royan that tells you there is a Templar spy network in town?
Oh my. Um I have not done any spycrafts, so
Could just be like the cross on like a graffiti, or like I don't know. It could be
yeah. I think there is a cross hidden in some other artwork or design.
Mhm.
And it's like Esteval might have actually. I don't think he's engaged in the. Well, maybe he is engaged in a little bit of spycraft. Opening letters and dealing with stuff like that back at the temple. Um, I'm eager to find out, but I think he would recognize that there is like either a manipulation to uh the church or a non-religious building where there's like again a cross just hidden somewhere in either architecture uh or artwork, and we can be a little bit more specific about that later. But yeah, Esteval would probably relay this to the others. um
So you might have allies still in Royan, or at least someone who could provide you with more information. But I think we will leave that hanging for now and close the session out and move on to our Stars and Wishes segment. I will kick things off by saying, first of all, sorry to y'all as players for having the patience as we suss out and parse through rules we were trying our best to understand. And I think we came to like a reasonable place to a ruling to go off of for now. But obviously, I'm hoping that over between now and next time we use the journey rules, I'll have a better grasp on them. And if there is a difference in procedure, we'll know it until we pester Alan Barr, as we are now yelling at Blue Sky. No, Star. That was I really enjoyed that little scene between Torben and Elias. So started that little moment at the end there, just being like, "My God, did you hit your head, Esteval? He's being humble." And then also the start to like, you're safe from the pot for another night, cat. That was good. I like Torben's relationship with Monsieur Novell a lot. Um, a lot of stars, but I want to say a star to Jazzy for a lot of, and most of my stars are just like the narrative ones of how you framed Elias's thinking around his interactions with the farmer Jory. I just kind of like, I really liked his perspective on that. That's like a thing I wrote down for myself in my notes, is like regarding the tunneling coming out of it. I'm like, okay, I'm really curious to know like what Elias's thoughts are about this. And I just really like kind of the narrative you put forward. Um, I'm a star to all of you for coming to a decision. I was like, all right, we're gonna do river like water travel, and because now I have a better idea for how I can begin to set the campaign. I'm very excited by the prospect of getting to see Esteval in his more element of origin, of getting to see him maybe deal with some like shadier elements. So it's a bit of a wish. So like I'm just looking forward to the fact that we're going to Royan to visit the basilisks in. Do I have any other? I mean, there were a lot of like little fun moments, but I'm blanking on other specific stars. But other wishes is, yeah, I want to get a better feel and grasp on, I feel like, the journey aspect of it. And I don't know, I'm still having fun, and like I just like love seeing each session how our Templar journey unfolds. I am now beginning to creep into some possibly supernatural things that are definitely happening. But it will be, there will be an escalation. I promise. You guys have expressed a want for things like vampires and stuff, and that's not gone on deaf ears. But I'm definitely still in that point of the campaign where it's like, and things are still a little historical before we get into the fantasy part. But yeah, I'm excited for this next adventure because it's a more fleshed out adventure site. It's actually a pre-written adventure that I slotted in from the supplement Faith and Fear. When you guys were talking about your round, I'm like, well, that's actually the perfect place to fucking insert that. So I'll just bam. I'm happy to have less to prep for the next session, less of my own cognitive load. But I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. So yeah, that's me.
I'll go. Star for the Torben's dream sequence, which I'm looking forward to digging into a little more. He will absolutely not tell his friends about it, but he has a suspicion of what he saw. I really enjoyed the scene with Elia. That was a lot of fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to Esteval getting back to Lisbon. And also, I feel like you're probably going to be better suited for the spycraft stuff than either of us, especially with Captain Subtlety Elia over there. Yeah, we're Templars. We're from these knights. It's fine. Hi, stranger. That was a great scene too, just to kind of establish Elias's relationship with telling the truth, which is definitely not going to cause problems ever for us, probably. Uh, yeah, this is great. I really enjoy. I'm having a ball, and I'm looking forward to seeing it get weirder and uh, more more drama.
Yeah, stars, the chat when as Elias, I went up to that farmer because you were having like this whole discussion, like, is it a sin to lie and this and that? And it's so funny because I was like literally like, wait, Elia wouldn't lie. Did I say a lie? And I was like panicking, like, no, that was a mistake. And then you all like, no, no, you didn't, like a fool. I was like, oh yeah. No, I hadn't even considered that because Elia is just like, no, I'm just gonna tell them who I am because why would anyone be against me, even though the world is against me? So that was very fun to see your reactions to that in the chat. Um, Star to Esteval, getting as passive aggressive to Elia as he did to him earlier. I really like that little like snap, like, no, of course I wouldn't imply that after Elia like said that to him. And also start to Kevin's visceral reaction when I said that like Elia immediately started ripping up his tunic to help Torben. Like you just had like a full body like reaction, and it was great. I don't know if that was positive or negative, but it was very funny to me. um, and start to Ben, yeah, for that Torben scene, I continue to find it so fascinating how they are butting heads all the time, but then manage to like segue back into very much feeling like, very good friends that can say
That's something
these
I couldn't
things.
vocalize. Yes, I was gonna say there's such a camaraderie there that like it always comes back to. It's really good.
Yeah, exactly. Like even when they were having that moment and Elia was like basically having like a mini crisis of faith, like that was really interesting to me. Also to like have Elia find that comfort in his friends, like, okay, yeah, I'll believe you because I want to believe you because this sucks and I feel bad about it. And then immediately kind of turning that into a joke. Like that was, yeah, I think we've had that in 3 sessions now where every time it sort of is like that. And I like the progression of that. I think it's really interesting to see between them. Um, yeah, for Alex, yeah, I think you did great just being like, well, I don't know the full rules. I did my best to parse them, but this is how I'm just gonna run it for now so we can continue playing. I think that's a great GM skill to just like realize when you kind of need to let it go so we can move on and then we'll see how it works and we'll tweak it if it doesn't. But yeah, that was great. I also really loved Georgie, like that the character and like having like that last bit of the romance meant something. Because now we're probably gonna let that go for a little bit, given that we're getting further and further away from friends. So that like having that positive last connection for Elia, that felt like really, really meaningful and like a very bittersweet way to sort of end the Paris thing for him. So I really like that. Wishes. There is one scene that I'd like to do with Esteval maybe before we get in all the spycraft, just because it kind of relates to that moment where Elia was like, "Don't talk about my family like that," and it's gonna feel weird if we do it like in game like 3, 4 weeks later. So I think they need to address that before we like at least partially before we get there fully. So that's something that I'd love to do. And I'd like to see more Torben and Esteval as well, because I think they had a really fun dynamic, and I want to see where they stand when things are getting shadier and if they find agreement or disagreement there.
Cool. That leaves me to land the plane. Uh, yeah, I also really loved that opening dream sequence, and what a fun and wonderful way to start introducing the concept of supernaturality. Um, I am also eager to learn more about Torben's moonwife, um, whoever she may be, and possibly other forms of divinity or supernaturality. I would almost like to see what happens when Elia actually gets a divine manifestation, especially if he then goes and tells Esteval and Esteval is like, you're just going nuts, because that'd be really funny. But yeah, and the cute little vulnerable scene with Torben and Elia was really nice and fun. I kept being like, do I want to butt in? It feels so private, like a little uh private self-flagellation sash, like you do with the bros. Um, so it didn't feel like a right moment to step in there, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity to have vulnerable moments between all of the characters. But I did, I just want to express that I did like that scene. It was fun. And yeah, all the stuff like with the farmer and him being like, there's a moment in there where he's like, uh if she's a little bit ice cold, then don't worry about it too much. That was just a really fun little side moment. But yeah, wish obviously getting into the spycraft would be really fun. Yeah, spycraft and supernaturality are the two things that I'm hoping in the next few sessions we start to get into more of. So I kind of hope we don't get out of Royan too quickly, and actually get a chance to sit down, stretch the legs, and learn a little bit more about the stuff the Templar Order, the Grandmaster, maybe didn't willingly want us to know about.
I will say the base scenario that I'm inserting into that around the Basilisk is designed around like an entire session. So it's like that alone. It's like, and then we'll probably have some padding. So yeah, I imagine we're going to be in Orion for like like at least
for a couple sessions.
Yeah, session or two. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds perfect. So, and that's what I got.
Was that everyone? Oh my gosh, there's so got so many stars. Well, awesome. Thank you all for playing, and I hope to see you guys next time. And I also hope we can get in touch with Alan Barr, but I'm looking forward to it. So until then, I think that brings us to an end.